Hey there. So my next guest, awesome guy. He's definitely an intellectual. He looks at things from many different perspectives. He's kind of done the entrepreneur thing. He kind of does the job thing, but he understands that even as a person who has employment, he still is an entrepreneur, and he kind of explains, where he would go and how he would approach things, both from what he's done and as he was moving forward. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was definitely a very intellectual conversation, and I know you all are going to love it. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, we have a very special guest for you. We have Benjamin Denis. Hey there, Benjamin. How's it going?
Hey there, Bradford. Doing really good. And you?
Fantastic. It's a beautiful sunny day in Las Vegas. How about yourself?
It is a sunny day, but with some snow here in Montreal. So I guess the mood's a bit different. So us, it's like the second snow of the year. Christmas is getting on, so we're getting in the mood. I don't know. I've never been to a place where there's no snowing. Well, I've never been. I was never in a place close to Christmas where there was no snow. So it must feel a bit weird.
It's so I grew up on the west coast of the United States in California, and we never had any snow. I then moved to Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. There was lots of snow, and then Ohio right off the Great Lakes. So lots of snow there. And I have to say, I much prefer seeing palm trees to snow.
I must agree, but I live in a different reality. But snow has there's some nice things to snow and ice and cold. But yeah, I think palm trees are a way to go as well. So.
All right. So Benjamin, I like getting this show started, just getting right into it. So why don't you begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Oh boy. That's super wide. So I'll go at the beginning, right? Because that's where I think you should start all stories. My story obviously is a story where it's all about passion, video game, and just putting myself out there. So my story started as a lot of people, I hope, started with Nintendo 64. So I remember it was my ninth birthday, received Nintendo 64. I did, when you're a younger guy, your voice can go on a certain level of pitch, right? So obviously at that time I did go on a high pitch when I received a Nintendo 64 with Zelda Ocarina of Time for the first time. It was my gift, but we were in a big family, so it was also like my sisters were also like entitled to play play a Nintendo 64 at a big family. And so we went from Zelda, obviously, which I finished multiple time, and then the real love of my life when it comes to video game arrived, which was Super Smash. Right, Super Smash was a party game at that time. I remember the first night, it was like maybe a year into playing the game with my family, where we discovered the Smash attack. I remember that day pretty clearly. Like I had Donkey Kong and I was like, wow, I hit it together and it made something crazy good. And then like went to play some Super Smash Melee. I did some competitive stuff. I did like practice some advanced techniques. Am I a really good player? No, because really good Smash players are like on a complete different level. And from there on, I just always kept gaming, with StarCraft, my weekends, until in university, that's where like the second step of my passion to gaming really started, where I was a big Hearthstone player, played a lot of Magic back in the days. So for me, Hearthstone really rang a bell. But I didn't like the fact that like in Magic, like there's someone in front of me, just like you're in front of me right now, Bradford, and we can exchange, talk about other things. So it's like, okay, so it's missing that to Hearthstone. And as most people can hear right now, I have a French accent. I'm a Francophone. And obviously that creates sort of, I wouldn't culture differences, right? So here in Quebec, the French people, we like to stick together because we speak French and the rest of the world doesn't speak French. Well, not the rest of the world, but the rest of the United States, North America, and so on and so on. And it was like, let's make a community, let's make some tournaments. So I created a league, Hearthstone, started free passion project. And the whole concept was around every Sunday night, we had a featured match, right? So it was for the community, by the community, if you like. So that's what we did every Sunday night. Two people that they played their match in front of a stream, which was, it was new for the French speaking community of Twitch, especially in Hearthstone. And from there on, just kept on doing it. Always tried to be professional. I come from the marketing side too, so I always try to make it appealing, make it more fun, get some storytelling, go for prize pool, go for sponsorship, and from there on, I used that to sort of, as I exited the university with my bachelor in marketing and that experience creating a league and having sort of a reputation in my community. Use that to go with a company called Montreal Esports, which founded the first like esports company in all of Quebec, if you'd like. Try to do many things, doing content creation, acquiring pro teams, doing sort of that grind. It was at a time where Overwatch League was starting. So, we sent some emails, tried to get some funding for that. Didn't really work out. I had lots of fun with Montreal Esports, but we could go on an old topic of why being French hurt us so much in the fact of trying to become a pro or amateur team. And I see your face going like, oh, we can speak about that later, but I just want to sort of close the loop of the story. So anyway, Montreal Esports as a professional team or a content creation house didn't really work. We had the space, so we decided to do summer day camps. It was in 2018. We had lots of success. It was during the Fortnite craze. So obviously the 12 to 17 years old, they're like, okay, I love Fortnite. I want to get better because, the first world championship happened in New York that year. And people were like, what, 30 million in one day, which is gone. And, there's like Booba becoming a millionaire, Benji Fishy, I'm not a big Fortnite guys, but I remember all those kids just becoming millionaire overnight. So obviously every kid were like, wow, super interesting. And so we took that success with summer day camps and we brought it to schools. Here in Canada, we have something which is called sports study. Sports study is for high school students and it allows them to really practice their sports. The best case scenario is hockey, right? That's why we have a lot of great hockey players here in Canada, is that once you get to high school, you can do half school, half hockey. Right? So like a usual day of class is 8 hours. You're going to see like French, math, English, and all those other subjects and so on, and gym, obviously. But when you do that sports study in high school, you'll do half a day of class. So obviously the content is it's put together super fast, and you have to, you need good grades to get in that kind of programs. But the sort of the super nice thing, in fact, about that is that you'll be doing 3 hours, 4 hours a day of your favorite sports, right? So it's going to be hockey, may it be dance or, football, baseball. We have a lot of them. And then what we did is we went to schools and we're like, would you like to do the same thing, but with esports, having 3 to 4 hours of supervised practice in esports? And the schools, they were like, yeah, sure. Because for them, and I think Bradford, you're probably going to relate on this one, is that for me and for the people that work there, esports is a passion. And if you supervised and you accompany students in the process of them getting better at their passion, a lot of really nice things are come out of there, right? So healthy life habit, just experience, transferable skills, enjoyment, opening on the world, all right? Gamers are usually like, let's be honest, there is a certain stigma that, a lot of young gamers are less socially, open. So obviously when you put people which are less socially open in a context that they are super comfortable and that they love, they open up, they make connections, they start making friends, they start to get in the socializing sort of circle, right? Because when you're 12 years old, that socializing circle and all those concepts can be like daunting and scary. Well, those kids were able to do it in a esports-like context with other, passionate about what they love. So that is my story so far. I've switched from there, and that's the last part where now I work for a company which sells services for game studios where we can reduce lag. So I always from the beginning always strive to make gaming community or gaming space a better place. I went on the community side, then I went more on the marketing side, then the business and schools, and now I'm in the lag reduction. And I'm pretty sure you're a gamer yourself, Bradford. And let's be honest, less lag in your game is always a plus.
Always. I love it. That's a fantastic story, Benjamin. Thank you so much. There's quite a bit to discuss there. So before we do that, I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everybody else who's ever been on my show. So, don't feel special. Everybody gets this one question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how weird are you, Benjamin?
That's a hard question. Um, I I would say I always felt like I was someone who's fairly normal, not normal, not fairly normal. But as I grew up and I met more like intricate relationships with my wife or my best friend and a couple other working people, I realized that in some aspect of my personality, I'm really weird because I'm really down to earth and I calculate. Like I have this concept of there's a risk and there's a gain, and I do my life around that calculation. And for me, it's it's super easy for me to live that way. For a lot of people, when I tell them how I act and how I judge situation, they're like, "Whoa, you don't feel anxiety about that kind of thing?" No, because I made the calculation that it's the best way to go, so I'm just gonna do it. And I don't feel stress or anxiety when, like, my wife would be like, "Oh, but I would feel so much anxiety at that moment," and I don't know, like, I would be uncomfortable. And for me, it's just, well, I did the calculation, and that seems to be the best option, so I'm doing it.
Okay, so you're down to earth and you're utilitarian. So for some reason that
Mhm.
makes you weird. I
Well, around the people I get to know, yes, it makes me weird. It makes me sort of like, I don't know, stand out because a lot of people are not like that.
Certainly. I've asked every guest that question, and the result that I have determined from asking this question is that there is no such thing as normal. Everybody
Mhm.
has their own definition of what being weird means, and they all act slightly differently. And so, when in total, the average is across the board. So it doesn't. There's no such thing. All right. So thank you for that, Benjamin. Now, you have given me your gaming cred. So like you just blew out a whole section of my show.
Well, we can go in details, right? There's lots of things we can discuss.
How about this? What are you playing today, if anything?
Oh, today, that's super sad with the story I just said. I'm all into lately into Brawlhalla, which is a platform brawler similar to Super Smash. But Nintendo, as much as I love them, have been doing some unmistakably big errors in the past for the way they treat melee and the way that, it's funny because I talk about lag. I don't want to go too much into that direction, but Super Smash Ultimate Online is not the kind of experience I can enjoy because it's not, for me, it's not the same game as the one I play with my friends on a couch party. So for me, I can't play that game online. And Brawlhalla, which is really similar, super fun mechanics. The lag wise, it's a complete different story. It feels like, man, it feels like if you're playing, in a couch party. So for me, it's just like it's my fighting game brawler, which I can play all the time. And um, we did a Christmas party, but we did it online, right? With the guys at my job, and then I discovered that a lot of people are into Brawlhalla. So now there's an office competition about the game. So it's like, wow, I'm super excited. So right after we finish this, I'm going to be doing some eye level techniques practice in Brawlhalla because it's all about muscle memory and like that's something we didn't really discuss. Well, I didn't really discuss, but when it comes to getting better at games, that's something which I'm passionate of talking about because it's something which is super hard because getting better at a game is doing something which is not fun, right? Like when I say I'm going to go play Brawlhalla, I'm going to try to get better. Like I'm probably going to start with 5 to 10 minutes of me just moving around without hitting nothing, just making sure I can do my jump dash. Then I'll be able to make sure I can do my fast falls and so on and so on, and all those advanced techniques because I want them to be a second part of my fingers. And then once I play, I can just focus on, the next big thing, right? The next technique or the next strategy I want to implement.
Absolutely. That's a bit of a pro player kind of thing going on there. Practice makes.
Oh, but I'm not that good. But I do enjoy myself, and that's what I'm looking at. So
I love it. Okay. I kind of have an idea of what I think your answer is going to be. But my next question
okay.
is, what do you consider your favorite game of all time?
Super Smash Melee. I know I've talked a lot about brawlers. There's obviously a lot of single players games which are crazy good. Breath of the Wild, Zelda Ocarina of Time, and that's without talking about like some of the without talking about RPGs, right? Because Divinity Original Sin 2 is an incredible masterpiece. And if you've never played that game and you like Dungeon and Dragon and you think Baldur's Gate is maybe not fine tuned enough, Divinity Original Sin is. I played it. It's the kind of game you'd like to press a little button over here and be like, forget what happened. And then you can
Yeah,
just
replay it all over
rediscover it,
again.
right? That'd be so great.
I love it. Okay, Benjamin. Thank you for that. Now let's get over to the preneur side. You know, I try to only have a little bit about the gaming here on the show, even though it's called the gamerpreneur. My focus really is on the business side of things, and I'd love to know, like, your current position. What is it you do there?
I'm doing business development for EdgeGap. The company is called EdgeGap. So doing a lot of business development, but I also joined the team as sort of the more marketing expert, and also bring a younger vision to the team. Right, a lot of people in the team are engineers, so when it comes to social media strategies and the way to communicate, and so I do fill that gap, but I'm really focused about making relations and selling the product, because that's like, I'm not an engineer, right? I'm not a dev. So that's something I really can do. It's still taking me a lot of efforts to be on top of the game when it comes to knowledge, understanding the infrastructure and so on. There's a lot of education, which is going on. But the thing is, we're talking about maybe 30% to 50% like reduction in certain games, which are multiplayer based, in session-based video game. MMORPGs, we can't really obtain the same kind of results. But when it comes to, let's say, like a 1v1 game or a MOBA, we can do huge like reduction.
Okay, that's incredible. Now, I'll tell you, I make this show mostly for my audience. You know, a lot of my audience isn't necessarily business savvy, but they may be interested in getting into that. And I hear the term business development almost every single day. I know what business development means. What does business development mean, though?
For me, there's different opinion about that, but for me, it's all about creating relations and being able to help people. I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but that's the way I've always seen myself as what I'm good at. And there is a lot of value in creating relations and putting the right people doing the right thing at the right moment. And that's, for me, that's what business development is. It's all about creating relations, which ideally you'll be able to foster into value in the future. But if you don't, it doesn't really matter, because it's not about creating value. It's about creating relations.
Certainly. And is this what you meant to do? Is this like the thing that you've kind of been working for, or how does this fit in your plan?
It's a funny question. Is it something I always... It's not something which I sort of set out myself to do, but it's somewhere where I'm proficient. So yeah, that's the word. I'm somewhere where I'm proficient in something that I like. Like when I was starting doing this, business development for EdgeGap, I switched from esports to game creation, which is a completely different market, right? You tap into certain knowledge, which is similar to both, but it's completely different. And like, I still go into meetings and I still got this fanboy attitude where I'm like, wow, okay, like, if we could not talk about what I'm trying to sell you, and we could talk about what you do in life when you create a game, how hard is it, when it's time to think about the audio or the soundtrack of your game, like what's your thought process? I want to know more, because that's, like, I play games and I'm like, wow, how do they think about that? Because that's, like how come, like, at this moment I started feeling that audio came in, and then that soundtrack was super good. It made me feel more thing about the games. Like, this is a beautiful artistic process, which I am not artistic. Like, I think that's what we said at the beginning. I don't know that you used 2 words to describe utilitarian and down to earth. So that doesn't really fit with the artistic side. But I love art. I love game.
Okay, wonderful. I love it. Now, what does it take to be good at your position? Like, I'm always looking for advice for my audience, because maybe somebody somewhere in this planet is going to be listening to this interview and go, what he does sounds awesome. I would love to be able to get into that as well. What skills are required? How are you good at this job?
I would be, it's a bad one, but it's a true one. It's perseverance. Because it takes time. It's super hard. I didn't set out, like I said, I didn't come out of university being like, oh, I'm going to go in biz dev and all that kind of stuff. I just had like a vague paper that said I did marketing, and marketing is super wide, right? I could be playing on Excel sheet and not speaking to people, which is the complete opposite of what a biz dev is. So if I go back to the question, which is what kind of thing you need to get better, well, perseverance is one. And then the perseverance is number one. And number two is, again, it brings me back to who I am, systemization of your activities, right? So when you speak to people, we use what we call soft skills, which are skills which you cannot track, like an art skill. Like, let's say you're good at video editing. This is an art skill because we can judge the value of what we bring with a final product. Where for me, like my boss is not gonna call me and be, hey Ben, how's your relation with Bradford? Is it good? Is he gonna bring some value to the company? Because it's not the way it works, right? That's not the way business development works. But you can still systemize the way you approach relations to make it easier for yourself. I'll give you a simple example. For me, it was a long time ago. It was when I was in university and I had to do a lot of networking events and so on. And I always wondered, like, okay, so, and maybe it may make me look bad, but maybe I was sexist back then. But I was just like, okay, so when it's another the peer I'm meeting is a woman in a business relation, I was confused because here in Quebec, if it's a girl who's a friend or someone close to family or someone at least you met once or twice, you'll be giving kisses on both cheek. That's the, well, not anymore, obviously with COVID, right? but that's sort of what I was used to, and I had lots of sisters, and my family I have lots of aunts and so on. So I'm used to when I see let's say an adult woman was giving the kisses, right? And when in the business setting, I was always like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And just one day, I just realized we were talking about soft skills in school, and I was thinking more about it, and I was just like and making them like always the same thing, because you can make relations always the same thing or try to aim for certain things. And I was just like, okay, now it's over. Woman, man, doesn't matter. Business relation, I'm going to shake hand. That's it. No more question asked. And, by making that rule, I just made my job easier in the future, right? Because whenever I meet a woman now, I'm just like, oh, what do I do when I don't feel anxiety? I'm not like stressed about what I should be doing, because I made the rule. This is what I'll be doing. So making your the way you handle relation more like, you give yourself rules. It's a systemization, because there are soft skills. Just like the first time I'll meet someone, I'll make sure to pronounce their name a couple of times. So like Bradford, I'm pretty sure I said your name 5 times and we've just met. It sounds stupid, but the name of a person is more or less the best word that person can hear, right? When someone says Benjamin, I'm like, oh, what? Obviously, when it's my wife and she's like Benjamin, I'm like, oh, damn it, right? But in general, like, your own name is one of the most beautiful thing you can hear coming out from someone else's mouth. So that, that's a small trick. You can just use it over and over. I'm gonna, just like when we meet, I try to, like sort of try to remember some stuff about you, color of eyes, like and those things, you systemize how you get to know people, and it makes it easier for you.
All right.
Yeah. So that's the two thing I would say. It's perseverance, because like we're having a great conversation right now, Bradford, but sometimes I'm not going to have such a nice conversation. The person's going to be like, I don't really want to talk to you. So could we get on with that? And it's not something which maybe they didn't like me. It's possible, but most of the time it's just like, it's the context, it's the business. I don't have time, or they're not interested in what I'm trying to sell or whatever. So if you start feeling bad every time someone says no, you're going to have a really bad biz dev life.
Absolutely. Can't take it personally. All right, Benjamin, that's some fantastic advice. That's wonderful. Thank you. Now, can we go back in time for a second?
Mm-hmm.
I'd actually like you to go back with me to when you graduated from university. So we're going to be I want you to talk to little Dennis back there. And, I want you to tell him everything that's ever going to happen in his future. But here's the one thing he needs to know about the path going forward. What does he need to know?
One thing to go forward. That's a really hard question. Um, and I feel like I'm gonna have a cheesy answer again. Because like, was there any art skill or anything which I did which was really important? More than the others? Like, obviously, I'm gonna say first and foremost, like, believe in yourself, right? I think sadly, it's the cheesiest one, but it's also the most important one. Where in doubt, in doubt, just remember that everyone else who's an adult have no fucking idea of what they're doing. So if you don't, you're doing good. You're doing good. So that's already a good start. And the second one I would say would be to, again, it's going to sound super cheesy. It's a mix of do what you're passionate about and specialize yourself. But like, there's a difference between specializing yourself and saying like, oh, I love games, so I want to know everything. But you have to sort of put an extra layer of context onto it, right? So I love game and I was all about business. So I got specialized in game and business and esports, right? Because I could just decide to specialize in game and just, like, I don't know, I could decide I could be in games and do copyright exercises to be a better game reviewer, for example. So, right. So that's specialized, right? But you have to put a little bit more of context. And ideally, you want to use some of your strength and apply it to that context.
Wonderful.
Right. So I really don't mind speaking and being in front of people and representing people. So for me, that's where I try to put my thing together. Right. So it's.
All right. Fantastic. Now, Benjamin, I want to humble you for a second, if possible. You see, I believe that we learn the most in our life from our failures, not necessarily our successes. Because your successes, you may not know what happened that got you there. But with your failures, you probably know exactly what you did wrong. And from that, you can learn and you can grow and you can move forward. So I'd like to ask you, what do you consider your biggest failure in life and what did you learn from it?
One of the biggest failure in life was with my first Hearthstone League. Well, it was my first. I did a rebrand. It was always the same. And you'll see, one of the errors I did is I did a passionate project with some friends. And at one point, because it wasn't settled in the right way, I think that's where I did the biggest error, where at that point in life, I involved myself 100% to that project, while my two friends, which I like, are they friends still? I don't know. I didn't really speak to them since there was a break off, because like I created a project and involved myself 100% into it without the project having sound foundations. And what I mean by sound foundations is those two owners or founders of that project didn't really have the same goals, same interest, and the same dedication that I did, which created a lot of tension for a lot of time. And it was one of the big errors, which like it made me grow up a lot, because like you said, errors are things that really make you think a while back. And like, how did I handle those relations? How did I try to build something? Right. And for me, it was all about, I tried to build something with the wrong foundation. And that was a huge error. And it cost me some friendship. It cost me time. It cost me stress, anxiety. Imagine when you're in school and you're working, one person is working for the whole team, and that person, is really putting himself out there. Well, there's a cost for everyone. The person who are outside are going to feel a bit left out. The person who's working too much is going to feel like he's going to look at the two others and be like, oh, you guys are not working enough. And then, it just creates some really bad stuff. And yeah, so I think that's the biggest error I did, where, and I was younger too. So it's like, it's normal. You think everything can be done by magic or with good hopes, and everything is going to settle down. But no, there comes a point in life where everyone has to sit down and be like, okay, so how do I pay the rent? What's the future? How can I use all the time I invested in said project into something which can be beneficial to my career, my life, my personal life, and so on and so on. And if you don't ask that kind of question before you start said project, passion project, business project, or maybe something just for the fun of it, well, it can lead you to some harder places afterwards.
Certainly. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, kind of a related question, but on the other side, what is something that you're working to improve on in yourself today?
Mm, hmm. I haven't thought about that. Well, I mean, yeah, the thing I'm working the most on is getting technical knowledge, which is like it's funny because I would consider myself to be all about the soft skills. I do not have a lot of art skills per se. Like I'm fairly good in project management, league ops, and sponsorship. So those would be like the areas where I put myself to have the most art skills. But when it comes to other areas, I would feel lacking. Like I said, my role in most projects or what I did was not really doing all of the work myself, but making sure that better people were around and they had the right conditions to be able to perform, and I could give them the right guidance, which is cool.
Certainly, it's
But
called
I
leadership.
yes, but I like the art skill too, right? I want to be able to know more about the computer infrastructure, and like right now I'm looking at Adobe Premiere, Adobe Rush, because I want to be able to create like some small format content to be able to be used. And it's funny because I was lately thinking of, okay, I want that art skill of making more like video content, like maybe not the TikTok level because that looks super hard and you only have a smartphone to do that. Cheers and congrats to those that can do it. But for me, I'm more like I want Adobe and do that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, so I want that art skill. It's not necessary right now. Like it's not in my job. It's not necessary. I don't think it's ever going to be necessary. But I want that art skill. So I was thinking, okay, so what's the fun factor of me learning that art skill? And I was like, okay, so I'm going to need to do videos, or at least I want to be able to be doing videos in the future. So what about I do some montage of me playing Brawlhalla? And then I'll be able to, just post a clip on Twitter or just like be there. So if someone tells me like, oh, I'm better than you at Brawlhalla, I'll be like, well, would you like to look at my highlight reel before saying that again?
I love it.
So I want to put a fun factor into it. So I'm gonna, one of the things I'm gonna like, I was thinking, okay, so I'm gonna play Brawlhalla. I'm gonna take. So I got a way to do my replays. I need a way to mark them down. I need, I need an external link. I'm probably gonna have an Excel sheet that's gonna say, okay, so this video is there in my computer, and it's that kind of thing with, I have the more information. So this way, when it's gonna be the time to do it, I'll be like, okay, I got the complete picture, and now I can sit down and really do the working on animations and all that kind of stuff. So
Beautiful. All right. Benjamin, this has been a fantastic interview. How do people find you? Where are you at on social media? How could they contact you?
Two best places, Twitter and LinkedIn. I don't know my end all by art. I think on Twitter it's Señal Benji. Another secret of my life, I'm married to a beautiful Mexican woman, and I've learned Spanish in the past year. So I did integrate some of the cultural cultural symbols of Mexican culture. So Señal Benji with double I at the end on Twitter, and on LinkedIn it's b.denis. But I'm really hard to find. Well, not really hard. It's just Benjamin Denis is a really popular name in the French-speaking world. So if you Google my name, I'm going to be there, but probably not on the first page.
All right. Now, as we wrap this up, Benjamin, do you have any final thoughts you want to share, or anything I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
Yes, one last thing, because it's all about it's all about being an entrepreneur, and for a lot of people, because I guess that's going to be a situation in a lot of people, where I did not come from a family with a lot of resources, or at least it was not an high income family, and so I had to sort of build myself all along. I'm like the first of my family of a lot of people to go to university, and so on and so on. And my suggestion to people coming from a similar background is, no matter what you're doing, you are an entrepreneur. If you're working for a salary, but you have the right mindset, you're still going to be an entrepreneur. When I was working in the Montreal Esports project, and it was all about, did that project have an end goal? Was it sure it's going to work? No, never did it. But that never stopped me, because at the end of the day, I was always there thinking, but I'm making myself a business. I'm making myself more marketable because I'm going to learn skills. I'm going to create a network of contacts, which are going to be able to get me get a better job and whatnot and whatnot. So even if you're working for someone, at least I would never suggest it to just work and be like, okay, so I work that amount of hours for that amount of money. Always think that you personally, in every action that you do in your work or personal and whatever, there's something to be gained from. So it never daunted me. And I always had this mentality of, okay, I'm working, even though I'm a salary man, because I need to pay my rent because my parents cannot just come in and pay it. I always thought myself an entrepreneur. And that's where I think a lot of my growth came from, because I was always responsible for my own destiny, right? Because if you shut down and you just think, oh, so I'm getting paid and it's not my fault and the company is going to crash. Obviously, what I just said can also lead you to the other opposite of like you care too much and you're too much emotionally implicated in the project, which is not good either. You got to find the right balance. But you personally, on a development way and just like growth, you're an entrepreneur. You can change your life, and you're the best position to do it. So make yourself gain value by more knowledge, more art skill, more soft skill, better network. Doesn't matter. Make yourself grow. There's always opportunity. And for me, that's being an entrepreneur, because I don't own any of the companies and I never had the financial backing to go like, okay, let's hire people and stuff like that. I always made sure that the thing I was building was me, and I consider myself a company. I know it sounds a bit weird, but
Absolutely.
that's the way I hustle.
That is such fantastic advice. And I honestly, personally wish someone had told me that when I was young. I had to wait until I was already I got my law degree. I was a practicing attorney for several years before I realized, oh, like I'm an actual entrepreneur. And then on top of that, I would say we're also all salespeople. And if we could recognize that fact, we could practice those skills and get better at that. And because some entrepreneurs are not salespeople. Right. They're not good at it.
They're thinkers, they're creators, which is beautiful. I'm not.
Right. However, but by being a thinker and a creator, you're not going to get anywhere unless you're also a little bit of a salesperson. You need to convince that salesperson to join you to do the job for you.
Exactly. It's like an RPG, right? You gotta max out some skills, and the skills you don't have, you gotta take other people, but you gotta be aware what's your player sheet and use it to the fullest.
Absolutely. Benjamin, thank you so much for coming on with us today. I genuinely do appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Bradford. It was awesome. Enjoyed speaking with you. Great experience.
Absolutely. And for everybody else, I'm going to remind you all, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.